Hello, and welcome to our virtual annual discipline meeting for the 2022-2023 school year. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Dane Lamont, the School Partnership Specialist for Penn Highlands Dual Enrollment Program. As we continue to adapt to a post-pandemic environment and adjust to new educational hurdles, we are pleased that we can provide you with an opportunity to complete our NACEP required activities in a platform where you can still make a connection to your liaison. Throughout the semester, ACE Liaison scheduled live Zoom sessions to discuss specific topics related to the disciplines in which you teach. While we understand that it is not always possible for you to attend these live sessions, these sessions were recorded so you can get the benefit of the event with the discussion from those who attended. Please enjoy the recording of your annual discipline-specific activity. We hope next school year we will be able to welcome you back to our campus for an in-person event. Thank you for your continued hard work in making this program available to students.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rick Bukoski. I'm your ACE liaison from Pennsylvania Highlands Community College, and I have with me Mike Lucas, who works with the college as well and is the ADA specialist. We had a request to deal with the issue of autism in the classroom, and so I went to one of our experts here at the college and asked if he would be able to put together a presentation along those lines, and he was happy to oblige us. So, Mike, I'll let you begin your presentation.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. As Rick said, my name is Mike Lucas. I'm the individual here who works with all the students with disabilities. My title is the ADA specialist. So I was asked to do a little presentation on working with students with autism in the college classroom. And as I go through this, I'm just going to give you some helpful tips and hints and things that you can kind of use and maybe get a way to understand, how they might see a classroom and the things that they deal with during your your lectures and presentations to them. So we'll get started here. So during this presentation, we're going to know what autism is, the characteristics of autism, the different behaviors, and how you can kind of help curb some of those behaviors in the classroom. And of course, at the end, if there's questions, just let me know.
Are you screen sharing now?
I am.
Okay, because I'm not seeing it on my end. Want to make sure we have it before this will start into you.
Yeah, I have a green bar here that says you are screen sharing.
Okay. I had my computer plugged in here at my desk, which gives me two screens.
Okay.
And your PowerPoint was on the other screen. And now I'm wondering if because I had unplugged it thinking I would record all on this computer. I don't want to mess it up. So now I'm wondering if when I unplugged it, I lost my other screen. Okay, I think we're good now. So if you want to continue, I'll keep recording.
Okay. So I'm going to go over here with autism and taking a little closer look at it. Like, what is autism, the characteristics of autism, the different behaviors you might see with autism, and how you can help to curve some of those, behaviors that you're seeing during your lectures and in your classrooms and even online. So let me look down here, get it to move on. There we go. Okay, so what is autism? And autism it's ASD, which is the autistic spectrum disorder. It's a complex developmental condition involving persistent challenges with social communication, restricted interest, and repetitive behavior. While autism is considered a lifelong disorder, the degree of impairment in functioning because of these challenges varies between individuals. So basically what this is saying is students who have autism, individuals who have autism, struggle with social behavior and how to communicate effectively just in general. And everybody's autism does not look the same. So when I say that, I had one of the greatest examples ever provided to me with autism of how to explain it. Now, this is it'll cover all the characteristics of it at the same time as helping a person understand what a person deals with. So one day when I was in college, I walked into one of my classrooms, and the whole classroom had been set up differently from what I was used to. You have your typical, desk in front of desk type of classroom, and when I walked in, we were kind of in a circle, and there was a table in the middle of the circle, and there was a microwave and a fan and a set of cymbals that you use during band and these little spray bottles and different things. And we're all sitting there waiting for the class to start. And our professor came in reading a novel. And as they were reading the novel, we, of course, stopped talking and we're trying to listen to what this person is reading to us and wondering, why are they reading to us? So here we're listening. And as they're reading the novel, another person walks in and starts flicking the lights on and off in the classroom, and then another person came in and started spraying these bottles of mist that had different like smells and just making noises with those. And another person came in and put food in the microwave, and then finally another person came in and was hitting the cymbals. And all these things are going on, and the professor is still reading this novel to us, and we're all like, what is going on? Well, here all of a sudden the professor yelled, "Stop." And the next question they asked us was, "What did I just read to you?" And here, not a single one of us in that room could answer that question, because what were we doing? We were paying attention to everything else that happened to be going on. So what ends up happening sometimes with an autistic individual is you might have the light buzzing in the classroom, or someone tapping their pen, or someone who's maybe on their phone, or there's someone that's brushing their own pant leg, and they're paying attention to all of these other things that are going on over what you're actually teaching. They have a very hard time separating all that, stimuli into focusing on what they should be. So everybody has different ability levels to do that, different tolerances to do that. Some are very low, some are higher. But all autistic individuals deal with that particular type of, difficulty. So that's one of the things I want you to understand, and to give you a little clearer picture of what that might look like. So here you go. If you look over on the left, like all these different areas can be things that an autistic person deals with. Depression, being fixated on a topic, on a picture, on a video game. I had a student here last semester in my ACP class that he would come in and tell me about a Christmas story, and I don't even remember the name of the movie, but it was from 1984. And he just talked to me every single day about this story, and I was like, my goodness, he knew more about that than anybody probably on the face of the earth. You might hear that they might talk a little differently. Some people even say they sound robotic, and sometimes they do. Some of them are sensitive to noise. They all usually have some sort of social difficulty. A lot of them struggle with anxiety. You might see them, and what they mean by abnormal posture there is like they might sit in different ways than most people. Instead of sitting straight up with, like they're looking ready to learn, they might have their, the crisscross applesauce in their seat going on, or, they might kind of slouch in their seat, and it doesn't look like they're actually, involved. But it's amazing sometimes that they're paying attention more than others, and you can't even see it. A lot of them will show poor eye contact. Some of them will ask you if they can bring in like a fidget spinner or a stress ball to try to keep themselves, because they'll sit there and they'll squeeze these things just to keep, doing something so they can focus on what's in front of them. And aggression can be something that you may see when they're frustrated. When they can't block stuff out, or when something's overwhelming to them, or they're just feeling like, oh, I don't belong here. Maybe their anxiety and their aggression go up at the same time. We'll talk about a little of that later. Now, the image here on the right of my screen, it can show like these two individuals have the same amount of autism, but it can be in very different areas and show in very different ways. So the one over here on the right, they would probably be the person that may have the different speech, where the one on the left might have a hard time with depression or being fixated on certain things. So each person is different, and you have to be aware of what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. So one thing I will tell you is you'll notice there are commonalities within each person with autism that you'll be able to see. The behaviors will vary, but there's certain things you can look for, and I'm going to go over those with you here. So one of the things, like I keep mentioning, is the fact that they do sometimes they'll talk in a very like They'll come up to you and go, "Hi, my name is Angie. How are you today?" And it'll sound very formal, very like there's no emotion, no, but that's just who they are, and they don't show emotion. They don't show, they're not animated. They just want to get their point across to you. They sometimes have a very difficult engaging in just a conversation that you and I would have every day. Joys and able to, like, emphasize something that was fun to us. They may not be able to do that. They'll tell you about something, but it may sound to you like, did you actually enjoy that? And just take for the fact that they're sharing it with you, it usually is something that they enjoy. And I would encourage each of you to really, if they're telling you something that is interesting to them, talk to them a little about it, get to know them a little bit, understand the things that they appreciate and enjoy, because you'll find that they never want to leave you alone then. And then you kind of have to cut back on that as far as, okay, hey, we're talking about this now. I'll be happy to talk about that later. Here's a really cool one as far as like understanding. I can share an experience with you. They have a hard time understanding what others might be saying. For example, like I had a young man who, great young man. His dad he worked at the prison up by Evansburg, and here his son was going here, and the dad one day was just talking to me in general and was saying, my son Mike has never told me that he loves me. And I said, really? I said, that's fascinating. I said, he's never said that to you in his entire life. And he said, no. He said, I'd love to hear it sometime. And well, here, the student came in about a week later, and I knew that, but I didn't tell him when I talked to his dad. And I said, hey, I said, have you ever told your dad you love him? And the student looked at me funny, and he goes, well, I do, but I said, have you ever told him? And he said, I don't think I have. Well, here, it was maybe 2 weeks later, and the dad called me on the phone and was crying. Well, here he was making his son breakfast in the kitchen, of course, and his son told him he loved him. It was the first time he had ever heard it. So I had to tell that kid to tell his dad something, how he felt about him, because he wouldn't have done it otherwise. So you sometimes just have to dig a little bit and kind of understand where the students are coming from. They do have a hard time with understanding language, other people's opinion, points of views. And sometimes you'll see they get frustrated or upset when they don't understand someone else's point of view. They might it's their point of view or the highway. And that might come off as rude, but actually they're going with what they know and not doing something that they don't understand. Now, and let's see here, if I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but another good one I can tell you is they take things literally. Sometimes, like with sarcasm, they don't get sarcasm. They get frustrated with sarcasm. Here's another good example of that. I actually had a set of twins here, and they'd both come in to be advised. And I would build their schedules for them and everything. And the one was struggling with classes a little more than the other. So I told the one, I said, can you step outside for a minute while I talk with your brother? Sure. So I'm talking with the brother, and here I am. I'm in the Success Center, and then I go like this, and I look out my window. Well, here this kid is soaking wet. Well, when I told him to step outside, he literally went out in the rain instead of stepping outside into the center. So you kind of have to understand where they're coming from. They're not good at, of course, sometimes being imaginative or emotional with discussion. They're good with that, with art, with sometimes like in your courses with being creative and creating videos, but it's hard for them to do that with conversation. And down at the bottom here, you'll see I put something in capital letters. They are impulsive. They just make decisions. They don't sometimes think about the repercussions or how it's going to affect them in a negative way or a positive way. They'll just go and do something, and then they think about it later. So you'll see that in your classrooms with assignments, with maybe, a concept. You might come to a certain topic that they absolutely love, and they're going to try to take over the class because they know more about it than probably anybody in there. Again, you'll have to curb those kind of things. So Here's the slide. I kind of break it down for each of you here. So what can you actually do to help them in your classrooms and just to help them with your lectures and to learn? Make your directions as clear as possible. Maybe provide the directions in several different ways. An audio format of, and of course, digital format like I have here. And of course, just say it to them in the classroom. Make sure they're aware of what the directions are step by step, because if it's sometimes not step by step, they're not going to do it. They'll think they're doing it and they'll miss stuff, As Rick here may know, when you do a speech where you demonstrate something, you have to explain everything step by step, like how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You can miss steps in there. Like if you don't say to open the bread bag, you can't get the bread out to get the bread to make the sandwich. So think about it from like a very okay, step by step by step. Make your directions clear. And again, in a written format so they can follow something. Allow them to have breaks. They get overwhelmed if the stimuli in the class is overwhelming to them. Let them step outside, let them go for a walk, let them refocus, tell them to go get a drink, anything you can think of to help them say, okay. And you're going to notice one thing that comes along with all this is communication. Get to know them. What are they good at? What frustrates them? What are they excited about? What do they want to tell you? What don't they like? Give your presentations in a variety of formats. Make it electronic. Make it so you're lecturing. Give them different options. Record the lecture so they can visit it several times later, so they can hear what was said several times. Provide them with options when working in groups or not in groups. A lot of them will want to work in a group, and some of them will not want to work at all in a group. So try to have a way of doing assignments in alternate ways so they can still experience the assignment in a way they're comfortable. Sometimes if you put the pressure on a person who really doesn't want to work in a group, they'll shut down. In fact, they might even get upset at you or just say they can't be in your class and drop your class because they're just like, hey, this isn't working for me. Sit down with them and figure out what would work with them. And this is a hard one, but if you can extend deadlines, bring their organization and time management and prioritizing skills, ask them about those things. They are never good at those things. I have right now, I think it's 14 different autistic students here. And every one of them that I talk to, those are 3 things they struggle with: time management, just being organized. I see them just throw things in their book bag and they take it out and it looks like a beaver ate it. I mean, they don't know how to put stuff in a folder or just to okay, different classes, different binders, different books, different note cards. Help them with those things. See where they're struggling. Here's the biggest one. I'm going to go into the middle category here now. If you're really trying to curb some of their behaviors, set the expectation at the beginning. Have it in writing. Let them know, hey, if you're doing this, I'm going to do this. Whatever you want that to be. You have to remember, it is your classroom. If they're, disturbing it, or if they're, having outbursts in the class, let them know what the repercussions are going to be if if they continue to do that. Because the last thing you want them doing is interfering with someone else's learning who is in there. They're paying for classes just like the other person is. So stay consistent with the way you deliver material. Stay consistent with your expectations. Refer them back to the syllabus. Have those expectations in the syllabus. If you notice them doing something in the class that you're not appreciative of, at the end of class, sit down with them and go, hey, let's pull out the syllabus together. And here's what I'm seeing you do. You're doing A, B, and C that I don't want you doing. You're not raising your hand. You're talking out of turn. You're just blurting out random things. I can give you a great example of that. I had a student out in Huntington at one point. He pulled out a gum wrapper, and in the middle of class, he drew a stick figure on it and said, look at my stick figure on my gum wrapper. It had nothing to do with anything. Now, the class, of course, they laughed, but it derailed the whole, your momentum with your presentation. So that is not something that's not acceptable. They didn't mean any harm by it. They're not trying to be disruptive, but at the time, that was what was interesting to them. And that's some of that impulsivity that I was talking about. let them know that, like, hey, I need you focused. If you can't focus, I need you to get up. I need you to remove yourself. And I need you to come back focused. And if they're still having a hard time with that, you do have the right to say, hey, you're not able to handle yourself today. I want you to leave my room, and you can come back next class and try again. Make them aware that you are running the course, and that's, it's a little different in high school, where you can do like the positive reinforcement, where you get so many tries and they get a reward for that. Now, I'm not saying not to reward them in a way, and that's at the bottom there. Catch them being good. If you see that they were really good during a class, they were taking notes, they were on task, they were raising their hand, when at the end of the class, just say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Here's what I seen today that was awesome. You did this. Let them know that, so they can say, oh, all right, now I'm meeting this person's expectations. They'll be very appreciative that you do that, because they may not know what you're looking for unless you just point it out to them. Keep your classes the same as far as the way you teach, the setup of the class. Maybe you have a quiz every day at the beginning. Then you talk about last night's homework. Then you do the new presentation of the new material. And then you do the wrap up at the end and tell them what their homework's going to be. And if the next class, you just switch that all around, and at the end you did the quiz and you told them about the homework at the beginning, it's very hard for them to say, what is the expectation here? What is the format in here? So try to be constant with your delivery and the expectation for them. And again, I'm going to go back to what is the most important thing, and that is, whoops, it went away. Let me go back. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that. I'm trying to move my screen here so I can see what I'm looking at over here. Open the lines of communication. Talk with them. Let them know what the story is, and who you are and what you expect, and just get to know them. Ask to see them after class. Point out things to them that you want them to do better, things you want them to improve, and of course, what they're doing well. You can always submit a pause alert. If there's a problem, you can let them know that. And just remember, it is your classroom, and you have control over it, and they need to understand that they need to follow your expectations, and don't let them kind of run the show. Just as a reminder, the 3 C's, I always call them: be concise, be consistent, and communicate. To keep those 3 C's in mind when you're working with students with autism. They need concise, they need consistent, and they need to communicate with you so you know what's going on, so you can help them be better students. And of course, if you have any questions, any concerns, here's my information, there's my email, there's my phone number. You can always reach out to me, and we can go from there. So I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me today, and take care, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Very good. Once again, Mike, I want to thank you for spending some time with us in our what is our annual ACE disciplinary opportunity. Our classes are kind of all over a wide county area, and we only have that opportunity once a year to get together and talk about things and discuss some concerns we all have. And as I had mentioned to you, one of our ACE participants actually suggested a discussion on autism, because that was something that she was dealing with in her class. And I knew I didn't want to tackle that myself, but I wanted to find an expert. So thanks for being our expert tonight. And thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, and I appreciated the opportunity.